Welcome back to the Isaac Abrams Show, everybody. I'm your host, Isaac Abrams. Today's very special guest, comedian, writer, actor, producer, philanthropist, Sterling Scott. Welcome to the show, Sterling.
Thank you so much for having me.
You can find Sterling on the current season of Canada's Got Talent. And he has a podcast called The Comedy Guru, which you can check out right here on YouTube. In this episode, he schooled me a lot about on some comedy stuff that I didn't know about. And we played a little bit of Let's Get Deep at the end. And you don't want to miss the story about the ghosts, I think. Also, if you watch this really fast, you can watch him drink 4 Indie Locals. This episode's brought to you by Indie Local. Sterling, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Enjoy the episode, everybody. We'll see you next time.
In Trinidad, we used to have, when you were a child, you couldn't drink alcohol, so they would give you what is called a shandy. A shandy was like 1.5% alcohol, and it was a ginger type beer. And you can go to the bar and with your child, because I was that child, and you can buy a beer and feel like you're cool sitting down, and that beer was a shandy. And as soon as I drank that, it brought me back to sitting in a bar with my mom in Trinidad, you know, laughing and feeling like a grown-up, having a shandy.
So you can't drink alcohol, but you can drink 1.5% alcohol. You can't drink.
Yeah, it's not like, that's not considered drinking for Trinidadians. Yeah. That's more of medicine level. Like, it's not a big thing. No one in Trinidad's going to be like, oh, God, are you giving them alcohol 1.5%? They might nothing.
Do you know that in the States, some states have rules that the beer can only be under 4%?
Yes, that's why we make fun of you.
Yeah. It's not every state.
Yeah, but it's enough that we can make fun of you. I mean, that accent that they say that sounds like Canadian is like one person. Like, we don't know. We don't even know where that comes from. It's like, you guys sound like a bunch of people from Minnesota.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't sound like it. And it makes me laugh because I'm Canadian. This is the Canadian accent.
This is Canada.
This is Canada, and it's pure. Now, there is 2 other accents. Northern Alberta, Newfoundland. Newfoundland is a bunch of people who are Irish and have lost their way. So their accent is very, hey there, bye, how you doing over there, man? Oh, love you over there. You know what I mean? That's Newfoundland. And then you have Northern Canada. In Northern Canada, it's a very, like, they sound like surfers with no beach. So they're like, how's it going, man? Like, oh, like, you want to go? You don't want, like, it's a very, like, get out of here. Like, you know, they're very weird. But those are the only 2 ones that sound different to us. Mm-hmm. And after that, everyone sounds like me. Yeah.
The crazy thing for me is that it's all Canada. Mm-hmm. And then some of it's French.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I left out that accent. There's 2 more accents. I'm wrong. There's the Quebecer accent.
Yeah.
Quebec accent is fondly known as the ugliest accent in the world, because of the fact that when they speak English, it sounds like painful to your ears. Mm-hmm. They're like, Tabernacle, how are you? What are you going to do?
Oh, like Klingon, yeah.
If you remember the Love Guru, Justin Timberlake was doing the Quebec accent.
Oh, shit.
That's what he's doing. The whole, like, I'm going to be with your woman. And that's really what their women sound like. And so
it's Justin Canadian?
Timberlake?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
It was just he did a fantastic job at being silly. So I used to run a weed podcast till it got deleted. Yeah. Because apparently you're not supposed to be smoking weed on TikTok. I didn't know. So my podcast was my first podcast, because it was like, do what you love. It was called the half-gram challenge. Now, there was a little issue with that because I'm thinking that it's weed, and people were like, he's not even doing coke. But so what we would do is you would, you take weed and you go, this is the grower, this is the stream, this is where it was bought from, okay? And now we're going to smoke it and then give you a review on how high it is, how high it gets me, and what would I use it for, how does it feel, blah, 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 blah. And it got taken down quickly. They're like, you can't do that. And I was like, oh, well, that's no
But
fun.
that could live on YouTube. It would just be demonetized.
Yeah, exactly. So what fun is that?
There's a show in LA where the comics will go do their set. 3 comics do a set. They go outside in the parking lot, they smoke a joint, they come back.
I've done it.
Have you?
So I, in Canada, run, in Western Canada, I run the underground weed shows where we let you smoke on stage.
Wow.
And the crowd smokes at the same time. And we continue. By the time the headliner gets on, nobody knows what happened. The best show I ever had, because I used to run them in all kinds of crazy places. Like, it started in a church basement. I am not lying to you. And so what happened was, one day, and I'm not even lying, this old lady is sitting in there, and she came to see her son perform his first time. And so I see her in the back by herself, the little old lady, and I go, oh my goodness. I'm like, listen, ma'am, this is a weed show, and everyone will be smoking continuously. I'm really sorry. But I would like you to know, so I understand if you have to leave. And she's like, oh, I really want to watch my son. So I come and I check on her around the 45-minute mark, and she's like, I am so hungry. I start crying, laughing. So I go and I bring her, she's a sweet old lady, and I'm like, she's about 70. So I go and I bring her some treats and stuff like that, and like watching her just dig into a bag of Twizzlers like a good old stoner. And then I go and I check on her again. These were long shows. They were 2.5 hour shows.
That's very long.
Yeah. And so I come and I check on her before her son goes on, and she's like, this is so good. And I'm like, what, the show? She goes, no, this Twizzler is so good.
She's still chewing it.
And yeah, so like those are the shows that I was, the runner. Like, I gave them all up to the Edmonton comedy community and all the other places, because I'm here. You know what I mean? I'm constantly on the road, and
specifically,
they are doing a fantastic job with it, and I am so happy, because it's like, it's not about me running and controlling and being like I'm the guy. It's more about, this is a gift for the community, so that when you come to our city and you go, what's cool, where can you go in New York, where's the comics table? Our underground shows that operate in a very gray area of the law are the place where it's like it's welcoming to all. It's the love of weed and comedy, and it's always fun, because whenever I make a pop in, I always make them turn on the lights so you'll see like hipsters over there, and some Jamaican dudes over there, strippers in the back, a rock band up front, and I go, look at that. You guys would never hang out with each other,
right?
But tonight we're all here under the umbrella of 2 things: weed and laughter, and that's beautiful.
Do you find that weed audiences laugh with their shoulders and not with their mouths?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you deal with that as a comedian?
You're not supposed to anticipate the laugh. It's a great training technique, because you should never anticipate the laugh. It's what happens when you see a comedian drop a punchline and the audience says nothing, and it's like, okay, you know what I mean? You're supposed to let the laughter come to you, and when it comes, then you pause. So in the weed crowd, you're never gonna get them to be like, "Rah, that's not weed. You're on coke. You're cheating." But with the weed crowd, you get honesty, because they're listening to every word, and when they're listening to the words, you'll see, yeah, and it's like, okay, good. So one, you learn how to become stronger, in the sense of, how do I handle silence, and then 2, your story writing skills are increased, and the truth of your punchlines are stronger because you can be in a hot room. A hot room is, for anybody who doesn't know, a hot room is when it's like the crowd just came to have a good time. They don't really care. And it's hard to gauge when you're in a hot room. If you're in a hot room just to crush and you're doing your best material, God bless you, have fun. But when you're working on material, I prefer 6 people in a bar who didn't know the show was happening.
Wow.
Because if you can make those 6 people laugh, 600's a cakewalk.
Yeah.
And so the weed rooms, also why I get high is I can't sell a joke anymore. I lose the enthusiasm to, like how Chris Rock would say, where it's like I take my words and then I can add the Chris Rock later. Mm-hmm. So I don't want to do anything but find the strength in the words.
Yeah.
Because if the strength in the words is what is making these people laugh, no matter what situation I run into, it's not my personality selling it. It's the words.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love a weed room, and I love the fact that because they're there with you, mm-hmm. but they're not going to give you the response that will, blow your head up. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
That's always scared me, because during Pandy I was photographing every outdoor show in the world. So like the guys that you were working with the other night, the long time no see guys, mm-hmm. they had a venue called Jam in the Van, and you bought tickets in pairs outside, 2 lawn chairs, cooler in the middle, unlimited free alcohol and weed. And the comics couldn't figure it out. By the 4th comic, nobody ever wanted to go last, because by the 4th comic everybody's laughing with their shoulders, but you couldn't hear anything, and it was outside, so it just went straight up. And
so that's where I train, like I give a lot of advice to the younger comics, and a lot of the legends and legacies that built my reputation in Canada was off of running towards those kinds of situations. The reason why is if they're not heckling or not trying to fight, they're just quiet. Run towards that situation. Because if you can crack that crowd, you're lethal. Mm-hmm. So there was a bar, and I'll never forget, it's the legendary bar that used to exist in Edmonton called the Druid, and they ran 3-hour shows. I'm not exaggerating. Wow. 3-hour shows. Yeah. And I'm talking, it started at 9, and it would end somewhere around 12:30. And it was a show up, go up. And so 30 to 40 comics would show up every week, and it would be loud. They wouldn't care. They'd be talking. And so after 6 comics, the crowd would tend to not care anymore. And so I asked the guy running the show, Lars Caliu, shout out Lars, love you, baby. I asked him, I said, if I go last, how much time would I get? And he go, you go pretty much as long as you choose, And I was like, I want to go last. And he's like, nobody wants to go last. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. And it's because I was a young and upcoming comic who had potential. And so he was always trying to give me the sweet spots, 5, 6, right before they conk out. I said, no, give me 30. Give me the 30, 32 spot. That's usually the number I would go on. And of course, the first couple of shows were rough. But after a while, it started to become where the crowd would be waiting to see that last spot guy. They're like, oh yeah, these other guys are trash, but you just wait. And by the time the Druid closed, which was 6 years later, it was to the point where everybody would come in, like for the beginning of the show, 9 p.m., but they would drink themselves silly and party waiting. And I would go on at midnight and come off stage at 1 o'clock in the morning. And they came for that. They came to see, I heard if you stay long enough, there's going to be this guy. And for 6 years, every Sunday, that's what I used to say at the end of my set, I'll be here. And for 6 years, I would close out a crazy, loud, drinking, drunk Albertan bar. And it made me stronger.
Yeah.
run towards. Now, and again, when I say run towards, there's things I don't encourage to run towards. Like if it's all comics, you're never going to get your gauge. No. They're too busy in their own mind waiting to be on stage. And if they laugh, it's because they're supporting their friend. And never go to a place that's violent. You should never have to defend yourself physically at any show. I don't care. I don't think that makes you a better comic. I think that makes you a vigilante. And finally, don't go to a show where they don't police the room. You know what I mean? Be able to like shut down the hecklers. It's not the job of the artist to have to be able to defend everything. Now, yes, there is comedians who shut down hecklers. That's great. But I'm talking about ones where it's not just one person. And sometimes there's nothing you can say to that heckler that will ever stop them from talking. Yeah. And so if the person running that show or the person running that room allows that behavior, those are not what I'm saying to run towards. I'm saying run towards a situation where your jokes need to splash so hard it ripples to the back of the ocean. And so, yeah.
So you're saying shut the hecklers down and drown them out with laughter from the rest of the audience?
Yeah. But if you got a violent heckler, you know, that one that stands up and doesn't stop talking, like they don't care about how funny you are, they just want to see the world burn, it's not your responsibility. Yeah. It's not your responsibility.
Which is the dangerous thing when you get to the level in your career where you're never going to leave clubs because you always got to go and work out at clubs. But when you go to your first theater set, they're like 800, 1,200 seat theaters. A lot of these places in third markets, you know, it's not Chicago, New York, LA. It's like 2 hours outside of Chicago or somewhere in Michigan or whatever. They're community theaters. The ushers are volunteers. And there's one local sheriff. And he's by the stage because nobody's rushing the stage. They're not there to tell people to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
And that can be interesting if you're used to always having like the staff walking around being like shh, shh, shh. Or you could be in a situation where you're in a club and the staff talks louder than the fucking
There's
audience.
A way to deal with that, and it's a technique that you got to first establish what kind of heckler you're dealing with. There's a lot of different types, but the main general three are the positive heckler. It's all about me heckler, and I want to see the world burn. Type 1, 2, and 3. If you're dealing with a type 2, which is it's my birthday, it's a bachelorette party, this comedy show is where we are, but I'm the show, then you use the technique of to address. First, you address them. Hi, not rude. Don't do it rude, because you could turn a type 2 into a type 3. You go, hey, how you doing? How's it going? What are you celebrating tonight? I love you. Thank you so much for being here. God bless you. Hear me out. I love you guys. I want to do shots with you later, but could you do me a solid? Just one solid. Let me finish this set. Let me finish this joke. Right after I'm done, me and you guys, we party, but I just need you right now for me. All right? Love you. Now, if they continue to be loud after that point, then you go one time, make fun of them. Okay? What'll happen is the crowd will laugh. They'll quiet down for a few seconds. They'll get louder again. Make fun of them a second time. And then the crowd will laugh. They'll be quiet again. On the third time, stop talking. Just stop talking. And allow them to be the noise in the room. And the crowd will turn on them for you. And that's how you tackle a type 2 heckler. And so that will prevent you from having to turn them into a type 3, because you can easily be like, now people will argue with me, but hear me out. The best thing I ever learned in comedy is whenever you're giving advice, it's take all the advice and use the ones you like. There's no one way to do this. This is effective for me. Because I've seen a lot of comics who be like, am I allowed to swear?
Sure.
Oh, it sounds like a dumb question, but I'm just...
You know what it is? It's for YouTube, you cut out all the swears in the first 5 minutes and you can stay monetized. But if you swear in the first 5...
Okay, well, they'll be like, shut the F up. You ever see where it's like, shut up. And it's like, okay, that works for some of you. But what I have found is you can be too mean. And if you're too mean, the audience shuts down on you. Yeah. But if the audience is the one that recognizes that the issue is not with your material, but with their negligence and disrespect to the rest of the room, they'll do the job for you. And that's how I handle that situation in theaters.
That's master level shit right there. That's insane. My last headliner that I was on the road with he's not going to sacrifice any of his hour. So if you talk to him And I tell this to the staff when I walk in. They're like, how long is the show? It's a 90-minute show. We got 20-minute feature. I'm doing a 10-minute guest set. He's going to do 60. The more you guys do not shut this audience down, the longer the show's going to be. So if you guys want to go home, you got to keep everybody from heckling. But he'll address every single person. So he yells something out, he'll be like, what'd you say? And then he'll talk to that person for 5 minutes. Then he'll make a joke about it. Then he'll go back to his set. And the more 5-minute chunks, I mean, sometimes he's done 2 hours.
Yeah. It's how it goes, man.
I've had theater managers come up to me and go, hey, you got to get him off the stage. I'm like, that's the guy I work for, and you want me to tell him to stop doing the thing that he loves because you can't do the part that you're supposed to do? That's not going to happen.
I will say that indie locale did the job that they were supposed to do.
Okay.
Because this West Coast Golden Good Wave is exactly what that is. It's washing over me like water in the hot shower after my armpits stink. It's making me feel like, a pretty girl that gives me her phone number. It is definitely something that you would drink on a hot day at a concert. You know what I mean? It's giving the vibe where it's like, I'm not sleeping, but I feel sexy.
But I'm not
you know
sleeping.
what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm being touched in my knees and in my body and... You know what I mean?
On my knees.
This is a consensual massage.
Yeah. I just talked him into
so much.
They're going to make it 5 for people like me.
Could you tell them also to make an extra strength?
Because make it 25 for you and a 5 for me.
Yeah, because I'm going to drink all of this.
Yeah.
It's such a great smooth taste. I was worried that it would taste. You ever drink an edible and it tastes like they just blended up weed and put it in a can?
That's what almost all edible shit tastes like. It's just weed butter in a cookie.
And I don't
weed
like
butter
that.
in a muffin.
That's lazy. That's lazy. This is highly refined. And thank God it says non-alcoholic brew, because in Canada they don't know what Delta 9 is yet. So with this thing is like, whew, this is for the parks. This is what you drink when you want to watch a love story with your wife because you don't want the relationship to end. And you need to find a way to get through. I would drink this watching The Notebook. I'd be like, go on and get her, you know?
Well, we don't have to do our ad read today, so that's good.
I'm saying, all jokes aside, it's phenomenal.
Take as many as you want with you.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Don't just bring another case back.
I will.
I wish they were cold for you, man.
No, and that's the thing why I'm giving it the credit that I'm giving it. This is warm, and you're going to see me drink quite a few of them during this episode. So if I could drink it warm, I could make love to it cold. So let's dance in the rain with no shirt on. You know what I'm saying?
Nice. Let's talk about your podcast, because I feel like I was just got a really good lesson. But you have a podcast called The Comedy Guru. Yeah,
The Comedy Guru is a podcast that is based on the idea that geniuses don't know how to explain themselves. They go, just do it. Just like common advice that a headliner would give a young comic. Just stage time. Write every day. That's a very broad, perspective. And what happens is young comics will come and say to me, well, that's what they've said to me, but how do you utilize your stage time properly? What should I be working on? How do you write a joke? What are what are these words? How do they mean things? And it's like, how do you develop? There's so much detail. And I'll never forget, I was dating this girl and she had to do a university course where she had to explain how to do something step by step. And then you had to read it and finish and accomplish it. And for example, it'd be like, how do you drive a car? And it's like, well, you put the key in the ignition, stop, you failed. You have to walk up to the car. You have to find the door handle. You have to open the door. So you see, like, these were the steps that were missing. And it let that light bulb off in my head, because I go, how do I do what I do? And so by breaking down step by step, I started to be able to convey better to young comics. And it got to the point that across Canada, whenever I show up, there'd be about 15 to 20 comedians just waiting at the end of the show. Because once you see me perform, you're like, oh, okay. So first off, he actually is that good. And then it's like, okay, how do you do X, Y, Z? And I would spend my time just sitting there with each one of them for each issue and showing them how to break down and do everything. And it got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to do a podcast where it's like, it's very specific. Like, it's like, how do you deal with a heckler? That's actually an episode, right? Mm-hmm. How do you write a joke? What is good stage time? What is bad stage time? You know, like, where do you get bookings? How do you get in festivals, et cetera, et cetera? And I found so much joy in doing it because of the fact that the response for all of my 350 subscribers, small following, big hearts.
Yeah.
The response has been nothing but elation and joy because they would be like, nobody talks to us, you know, and a lot of headliners are guilty of that. You know, what's the saying that me and my boy Tesh would say? Everybody complains about the line, but when they're in the front of it, they forget there ever was one. And a lot of headliners who know the struggle, right, and realized how hard it was, when they get to the top, they're like, I don't want to help.
Yeah, it's hard for me. It should be hard for you.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
And that's a horrible thing. Mm-hmm. It's like the difference between the hero and the villain is same origin story. Only the villain wants everybody to feel their pain and the hero doesn't want anybody to ever feel it again. Mm-hmm. So who are you in this world? Mm-hmm. And I chose to not be the villain, you know? And so that's why I had started the podcast. And so it's a very interesting watch for anybody from a beginner all the way up to top tier pro, because there's no one way. And I stress that. I put a whole disclaimer. I'm like, there's no one way to do stand up. Mm-hmm. This is my techniques that I have found to have the highest success ratio for me. Mm-hmm. Take what you like, leave the rest. You know what I mean? Yeah. And with that, I have found even more love because they're like, these are different ways that I've known. And, you know, the person that taught me taught it that there's only one way. And I go, no. That's like saying there's only one way to paint.
Right.
You know, you've got to be able to take this art form and make it your own. Mm-hmm. And when people fall in love with a style, they'll tend to replicate that style. But the ones that we remember are the ones that broke away and became their own. Mm-hmm. If everybody was Jerry Seinfeld, right, it eventually would be lame, because it's like it's just this one way. But it's the fact that you can get Jerry, Bill, Eddie, they're all different to the point where when they speak, just their voice alone, you're like, I know who it is. But you can see their styles, you know. And I want everybody to find their styles, because the more that is created, the better for the art. Mm-hmm. The art will be so much better when we have the ability to speak our voice the way we want. Mm-hmm. And so that's why the podcast stresses to find what it is that you like. Maybe you're stuck, you know what I mean, in a certain area, or maybe you just are beginning and you're scared. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are like, how do I even get on an open mic? Yeah. You know, and that's a legitimate question. And to a top tier headliner, they'd be like, I don't even know how to answer that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Been years.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't want to talk to you. Go away. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, a lot of headliners who are celebrities forget how intimidating it is to speak to them. Mm-hmm. You know, like, it's really hard to just imagine that Dion Cole is doing a club. You know, he looks untouchable from the minute he arrives to the minute he's on stage.
Massive.
Right.
Huge.
It's like his aura alone will push you away. Right. He's not a bad person.
Before he speaks, you can feel him fill the room.
He is. Yeah. Top tier, right? That's intimidating to young comics, because you're either going to come off arrogant or rude or obtrusive because you don't know him. And it's like, when people are afraid and they don't know how to communicate with you, they usually choose violence or loud, like, hey, motherfucker, what's up? They say, calm down, relax. Hey, you don't need to talk like that. Hi,
Yeah, what's your
but
name?
they're so scared. They don't know how to even have that conversation. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of headliners listening right now being like, yeah, I've talked to some weird people. And it's not that they are weird, but like they're scared and they don't know how to approach you. And so they try to approach you as informal as possible, or they'll be so meek that they won't even ask the proper questions.
Yeah.
And so by allowing this podcast to live, it gives that breath of fresh air where it's like, okay, at least I know. Like in the new episodes coming up, now when I say anything, I'll play a clip of me doing it live.
Oh, yeah.
Like from
Smart.
an actual show. And the reason why I said I'm going to do that is because sure enough, I perform at all the open mics. Like I said, I go to all the holes, you know, where they don't know you, they don't care. This is not Cheers. Nobody knows your name. They on a stab. And only thing that matters is your material. And sure enough, one night I had a type 2 hecklers. She was a extremely hot girl. She was so good looking that she literally stands up and goes, I'm Persian, and then would jump up and down and let the girls jiggle and go right back to being loud. Like, ha ha ha. She's just going off, right? But she's surrounded by 3 guys that can easily turn into a type 3. I just want to see the world burn. And so, you know, they're letting her be as loud as she wants. And if you say anything, they're going to defend her honor. And then not in a way that you would think, right? It's going to be fist fighting and knives. And so I go on stage. And these comics have been struggling all night. And I just walked in. And so, you know, for the last hour, they've been dealing with this. And it's just one table in the front, ridiculously loud. And I went on stage. And sure enough, every comic came inside and they were all waiting in the back. They're like, how you gonna do it? And I go, okay, this is a type 2 heckler. And I go, hi, gorgeous. How you doing? And she's like, I'm Persian. And she jumped up and let the titties, and I was grateful. And I was like, hey, I'm only on stage for 5 minutes. And you guys look like a lot of fun. So hear me out. Give me 3 minutes to tell you guys a joke, but you got to be quiet the entire time. And if it's funny, then hey, we laugh together. And if it's not, I'll buy the whole table shots. So we good? Yeah, okay. And I ran my entire set to dead silence from that table. The whole crowd is laughing, but that crowd was dead silence. You know what happened when I said I was done? They stood up, apologized to the room, and bought the whole bar shots.
Wow.
And then they went home because they realized like what they were doing, and the comics were going crazy. They're like, that was a type 2, that could have been a type 3, and they're getting excited. And it made me excited because they're using my lingo. They're using the jargon from the podcast. They understand that a type 2 is all about me. I'm gonna be loud. The show's, I don't care about the show, I care about me. But they saw the guys realizing we say shut the fuck up to that big titty girl, and it's gonna be type 3, we punching everyone. And they didn't know how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
And they were able to see me do word for word what I just taught them. And that's when I realized I'm gonna start implementing now in the videos. So I mean, if you check it out right now, I believe we've got, Tesh, we had 21 videos? Yeah, so already at 21 videos released once a week. And
so it's less than 6 months old. It's brand new.
yeah, it's brand new.
Okay.
It's a brand new one. Again, I'm not a big social media guy. I don't really care for it. But I love talking comedy. Like as you can see by the transcripts, I'm sure you would see in this podcast, it's 99% me not shutting up. But it's like, that's where I found love, is that I would talk comedy. And then the greatest part is, it doesn't matter if I did an episode on hecklers. If another comedian has a different take, we could do another one.
Yeah, let's get all the information together. Exactly. When I first started comedy, I bought every book on Amazon about how to write comedy. And I read every single one of them. And I was more confused at the end. And then I just went out and started doing it.
Right.
So for the last year, I've been on tour with a theater comic. So I feel more comfortable in front of 1,000 people than I do if I was to go up tonight at the Improv. For 200 people.
It's way harder to perform for a smaller crowd
yes
than it is for a louder crowd, because laughter is infectious. And when you perform for a larger crowd, it is an act. It is a performance. When you perform for a small crowd, if you were to perform that exact way, you'd look like an idiot because it looked like you're like you're an actor instead of a comedian. And what happens in the small room is you have to be real. You have to be yourself, and you also have to understand the art of conversation. How you doing today? Yeah, I know there's 6 of us in here. It's the super secret comedy show. God bless you. Thanks for coming. Now here's the thing. I'm gonna do some jokes tonight, and I want to make you laugh. You don't gotta laugh loud. I get it. Who's gonna be screaming in here tonight? But just do me a favor. Let's have some fun, and I'm gonna give you my heart. We good? Yeah. All right, let's go. You do that now, and 10,000 people with the same kind of energy to 10,000. Look, there's 10,000 of us here tonight, and here's what I want. Guess what's gonna happen when you learn the jargon of speaking, the lingo of how to talk to one human and be successful? 10,000's in the palm of your hands.
You did that on Canada's Got Talent.
Yeah.
When they were like, you ready? Let's go. Just get into it. And you're like, everybody want to have some fun tonight?
That's a perfect example. I did do that. I'm so glad I don't lie.
And that's not just in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah,
that's
was
on
like
television.
Yeah, in the crowd that night, I think there was somewhere between 2,000 and up. In that, it is a big theater. It's a big theater in Niagara Falls. It's actually Jerry Seinfeld is performing there. But yeah, that's a perfect example. The clip on Canada's Got Talent, everybody, when you see they're coming out, they come and you're supposed to stand on the little dot, and then hi, my name is so-and-so. And I was like, ugh, that's good for maybe singing or a dance, but you can't tell a comedian, and go. And it's like, so now I'm going to, you look like you're acting, you look fake. And so I said, I'm not doing that. And the moment I walked out, the show began for me.
You started roasting the judges.
Hell yeah.
Which I've never seen before.
I don't think he liked it.
Howie loved it though.
Howie loved it because I wasn't roasting Howie. And again, it was, why did I do that? It's to break the tension of the fact that I'm about to tell jokes. It's to put you in the mood of let's talk. It's supposed to sound like a conversation, not like I'm reading from a script. Yeah. And so the intro that happened was literally exactly as I was telling you. It's how I addressed it, but I just did it bigger. You know what I mean? It's to, here we are. I know why we're here. I know what's happening. I know how you feel. I can see how this goes on. This is that, and this is this, and this is that. Now that we've addressed what's in the room, now it's time to play within it. And let's go to work.
Here's what I'm really fascinated about, because I was just having this conversation with someone on the way here. I spent the last year opening for a theater comic, and we also did clubs. But I crafted that whole guest set, that 10 minutes a night. I had a bridge joke from the first comic. Hey, the first thing I said got a laugh. And then I did my set, which is mainly stories of me working in Hollywood. People in the Midwest are like, wow, you work with The Rock, cool. It was, and then I have a closer.
That is cool.
It's, I mean, not here.
Well, maybe not here, but even I got tingles. What? Like, I was about to turn this into me talking to you. This is what? Tell me about The Rock.
Yeah.
No, The Rock is amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
But when I do that same set, which is crafted for the road in front of that audience, it doesn't play here. So what I'm struggling with is the voice thing. That's always been at the center of my whole journey. Is what is my voice? Who am I speaking as? Who do I want to be? And the answer is almost always, the response is, you have to be yourself. But I think there's a little performative element to it.
There is. Would you mind if I gave you advice?
I would love it.
Okay. You have, it sounds like you have a set list and you do the exact jokes. Okay. Here's the thing. That is a technique that is used by a lot of professionals. However, your jokes, if you were a plumber, every joke you have is a tool on your tool belt. Okay? And when you walk into a crowd, every crowd is something that needs to be fixed. And all your tools are all you've got. Now, sometimes you need a different tool at a different time.
Mm-hmm.
The set list is, for me, a suggestion. It's like, this crowd in this situation, I believe this would work. But when I walk out into that room and I see the stage, it's like, okay, I'm going to use this instead, or I'm going to do that instead, because you may use a joke that will work, but it's being used at the wrong time.
Oh, like when you grab a wrench when you need a hammer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not saying that you don't need the hammer.
Right.
The hammer's going to come in later, but you can't use it right now. And what happens? It comes off clunky, comes off weird. And you end up now having to struggle, because I always try to train the comics to say your first joke should be your second best joke. The reason being is because you need to garner trust. Mm-hmm. You need to make them trust you, and your last joke is your best one, so they remember you. Okay? And so now, when you walk into a situation where it's like, well, I am opening with my second best joke. No, you're opening what you think is your second best joke. What would be the second best joke for this problem and this crowd? And another thing is crowd work. And I always tell people, crowd work is like a knife, but your material is a gun. So don't rely on it. Mm-hmm. Have it, but don't rely on it. And for simply just opening and being like, this is a nice theater. You guys are nice people, or maybe you're not. You're a loud crowd, or maybe they're quiet. To address the real in the room, just 30 seconds of it puts everyone at ease. It makes them feel this guy's confident. He knows what he's doing. And then find the right tool. There's a lot of relationships. Well, guess what I'm not opening with? Jokes about, rap battles. Right. I'm not opening with rap battle jokes. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's an older crowd. Cool. I'm not going to open with Tinder and Facebook and Instagram jokes, right? Even though that might be my best joke, it crushes. That's not the tool for this job. So if you do, you end up seeing comedians go, I get it. You guys don't know this. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't have used that tool. Mm-hmm. However, if you were to open with, this is a more older crowd. It's good to see you guys. I know we got to get out of here soon because some of you are falling asleep already. It's getting late.
Past your bedtime.
I think it's beautiful to see you guys in so many relationships, and start on a relationship joke. Mm-hmm. And then you can go, you know what's awesome? I'm younger and I like certain things. Now they know you a little bit. Now you can bring in that other tool.
Right.
So the set list is designed to be in the perfect situation. This is how I would go. But if I come in and I see that a wrench is needed instead of the hammer, you have to be flexible in order to prevent yourself from breaking.
I've always looked at writing jokes as filling an hourglass of time. Like I'm trying to get to an hour. But now if I revisualize that as I'm trying to fill up my toolbox, that takes this great writing pressure off of me.
Yeah, because it's just about finding the right tools.
Like
for
I
the
don't
job.
have a Phillips head. I need a Phillips head. I don't have.
Yeah.
And then with crowd work, like I love doing crowd work, but I stay away from it because I don't write into my crowd work. Because a lot of people just drop a leading question in on you so they can get into a bit.
I don't like that. Okay, so there's different types of crowd work. There's crowd work where I call it a loaded question. That is where no matter what the answer is, they've written a joke for both of them. And then there's the lead, like you said, leading in, where they're like, they keep poking until they say something stupid and then they riff on it, right? The crowd work style that I prefer is requires, it's like Krav Maga. It requires constant repetition of work so that you react, not think. So if you look at somebody like Ian Bagg, Nate Jackson,
the best.
Yeah, I would say best in the world, Ian Bagg, second, Nate Jackson, third me. Dylan. No. If you look at Ian Baggs, it's yes, he asks a question, but he's reacting. He's not thinking. You know, it's not that you'll see the same thing over and over again and he's like, it's crowd work, but he's talking to them and just saying the loaded answers. That style is what I use to set up jokes. Because, for example, if, just off the top of my head, if I'm going to talk about relationships and I see that every guy in the crowd has on a plaid shirt, I'll be like, all right, I guess your women dressed you and put you in your best plaid outfit, right? Just because I'm seeing it. And they'll look around and go, yeah, we are all wearing plaid outfits. That's hilarious. Let me tell you about my wife. You see what I'm saying? Instead of just walking out and just raw dogging them. Right. Like crowd work is like, you know, it's like 2 fingers and a tongue before the dick. It's a way to warm them up, but it's not the main show. Right. And so that's why it's like you can use it to lead in by just being honest about what's happening right now and what you want to talk about. And again, you're not going in the exact order of joke, 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 joke. You're going in what is the best wrench or hammer or screwdriver for the job. So if you have to rotate the set, it's being flexible so you don't break.
You know, it's interesting because that's the first time I've heard people refer to it as a toolbox before, but with the people that I've been on the road with, they're doing the same hour every single night. So I was always trying to build towards what they have without doing the work of all of the sets. It's just like, because they built their hour and then they took it on the road. Well, I'm looking at them on the road doing the same hour in the same order every single night. Like I could tell you what time it is by what joke they're on.
Do you know, very interesting. Again, that's why I say there's not only one way. When you watch Kevin Hart and Chris Rock, when they went on tour, what did they see backstage? Chris Rock had his entire, like, they were little like punch card, little notes. And what was he showing Kevin? This might go here tonight. He's like, this is the ideal situation. And he goes, but if I have to move this here, then I would move this there. If I want to close with this, that means that this has to go here. It was all based on the now. And so, like, if anybody wants to see a top tier professional do it live, watch that one on Netflix with Kevin Hart and Chris Rock. And he's literally doing exactly what I'm talking about. And there's other people who don't use a set list at all. Russell Peters is infamous for no set list. Just go in and how do I feel? That is, you know, for certain geniuses. I'm not one of them. I go with the technique of this is what I'm going to say based on what I think the problem is. And, you know, but I'm flexible. Like if I go in with my first joke and it doesn't work and I go, wrong tool. Okay. So then where are you guys? Let's go with this is what I think then. Because if you don't like this, then maybe you like this, you know? And yeah, you've got to fight your way out sometimes, which is, you know, how the game goes. I mean, if comedy worked every single night, none of us would do it. It's you know, you can ask any headliner when they're writing new material why they're so happy. It's because after a while they're like, ugh, I'm saying the same thing and it works. Ugh. It's the fun of, ooh, I'm about to go and do a new set that I think is hilarious, but you don't know what's gonna happen. You absolutely don't know what's gonna happen, and it's not predictable. And every comic knows that if you get a bunch of good shows in a row, she's coming. That bomb, that unexplainable night where and again, everybody's level. Louis C.K. said it best, where he's like, what I consider a bomb now is not what some people would consider a bomb. Right. It's because it's the different levels of laughter.
And he'll go out before a show at the Garden. Yeah. And he'll do enough shows until he hits a bomb and he's like, all right, ready for the Garden.
See, I didn't even know he did that. But it's like, we know it's a coming. Statistically, nobody is impervious to bombing. And I tell people all the time, do not run from bombing. And if you ever meet someone that says they never bomb, that's a hack. Because what's happening is you're afraid to walk the line, to push the boundaries, to find something new. And that's what you're supposed to do as a stand-up comic, and that requires risk. And if there's no risk in your act, well, then you don't have one that I want to watch.
Someone once told me recently that you decide if you bomb.
No.
So here I believed it for a while, and here's why. Because you can sit in that, like the audience can get uncomfortable. They didn't laugh at what you thought was funny. But you could stand in that confidence and just go to your next joke and get them back. I don't think a bad, you can lose a joke and then continue on with your set and still win them back. But a bomb is like the whole thing went bad the whole time.
But there's just some nights where, they needed a plumber and the electrician showed up. For example, if you do dark humor, there's different genres of comedy. If you do dark humor, guess where you're not supposed to be performing? At the old age home.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what tool you pull out next or how confident you are. Wrong joke, wrong tool, wrong job.
Yeah.
So that's a situation that happens a lot. And a lot of times people don't understand that. Like when people come to shows and see me and then they go, oh, you should host my wedding. And I go, never. Now, there are phenomenal comedians that can host weddings, but at a wedding, the bride is the star, and the groom is second in command, and the mothers and fathers and the aunties don't know who you are, don't care, and don't understand why their uncle is not the one holding the mic. Why are you? And so anything you say now is always going to be, why should I even be listening to you? And especially that I'm a dirty comic, like, typical R-rated, not anything extreme, just your typical R-rated comic. That don't fly at weddings. Nan, I don't want to hear about you wearing condoms. No. You know what I mean? This is a joke I did at an Ethiopian wedding, and they were like, that was horrible. I'll even say it goes, me and my lady were in a relationship, and she felt I was making the relationship feel like a job, and that if I don't show up, I'll get fired. And I was like, baby, I'm not going to fire you, but if you don't show up, I'll find someone to cover your shift. And they shut down immediately. Like, they acted like a fire started.
Really?
Oh my goodness. It literally... And everybody's like, whoa. Like, they're panicking. Like, they're looking at each other, running around. Like, how do you get the mic from him? And it's like, because for them, that was too risky. And so now I'm not saying not to do weddings. If you have the ability to do it, God bless you. I'm just saying for myself personally, to remind you that you're not the star. And you've got to figure out the way to highlight the bride, step on the groom's shoes, make the mothers feel comfortable, and at the same time include the crazy uncle that they all wished was hosting anyways. And that is just, I have no desire to do all of that.
No.
Like what I just said is the way to do it. You walk in, the bride's awesome, the bride's awesome. You got to treat the bride the way that they treated Tom Brady at the roast, because all they said was nice things. Let's be realistic. It was just being super nice. And then you treat the groom like how they treated Kevin Hart.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hit them all you want. And then everybody else that's on there, you just include them. Actually, who got the worst was Kim Kardashian. They booed her.
Yeah.
She got the worst.
I haven't seen it yet. For those of you at home,
sorry.
It was last night as we're sitting here recording it, but it's a week ago.
Yeah. So yeah, she got it hard. They booed her right off the top. But like, you see, so it's like, yes, I do know how to do it because I failed at it, which is why I always tell people, don't run from failure. Failure is, I know this is going to sound hacky, first attempt in learning. And the only way you truly fail in comedy is when you quit. So the same weddings that I bombed at are now the ones that I can crush at. It's just that you can't pay me enough to get out of my bed and cater to everybody, because that's pandering to me. Yeah. And I don't want to do that, even though sometimes I have to do that, aka a corporate show or on a cruise ship. Those are pandering.
Sometimes the money's just too big.
Exactly. Yeah. And my rent is too high.
Yeah.
So
have you ever quit comedy? Not once. You ever thought about it?
No. The reason why I've never quit comedy and I never thought about it is simply because of the fact that when I was young, I played basketball and I loved it. I love basketball. And, my coach said, you're too short. I was 5'10". He's like, you're too short. So you can't be on the starting lineup. And then I eventually just getting pushed deeper and deeper down the bench where it's like I never even played. And so I quit. Then I ran track, and I was and I still love these sports to the death. Loved track, loved it. In fact, I was, a top tier runner, but in terms of competing with you American athletes who a lot of young Americans, they peak early. So they'll be running 10.5 seconds, in grade 10 and 11. But they'll never get any faster, but that's what you're dealing with. And in Canada, I was running at the age of 19, I was running 10.78. So good for Canada, bad for America. And they're like, you're never going to make it in America, so you should just quit. And I quit. And I had to find my way. And I was lost because I no longer had love for anything. And this is the first time, 20 years old, was the first time in my life where I wasn't an athlete and I lost my way. And I had no direction. And weirdly enough, one of the teachers was like, you should do improv. And I was like, that sounds like a class I can skip. So I took it. I took it to skip. I'm not lying to you. I took it to skip. And I had so much fun being silly. I was always the funny guy in school, but I used it as a bully. Like I would wake up every day, come to school, sit down at the lunch table and be like, why did you dress like that today? And the whole day would just be about making fun of that person. And tomorrow will be somebody else. And that was just me being a little bully. But now I was using it to create a sound that to this day is what wakes me up every morning. It's the sound of laughter. And it felt warm and it felt beautiful. And I still didn't even want to do stand-up because I didn't like the idea of people telling me, make me laugh, tell me a joke. I was like, oh, screw yourself. And then I didn't start comedy until I was 27 years old. And even when I did that, it was because I was trying to get a free bottle of wine and I had no money to buy more drinks. So if you could tell a joke on stage, you get a free bottle of wine if the people laugh. And Daddy got his wine. And, 16 years later, this is where I am. And why would I never think about quitting? Simply because of the fact that stand-up comedy is not what I do. It's who I am. And so any job you give me, you're going to fire me because I was being a stand-up comedian. So, yeah.
Wow. That's an amazing answer. Because I have been having, this is my 5th career change. I'm 44.
Yeah, we're almost the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I just turned 42.
Yeah. Early 20s was all like real estate management. And then I switched over to the maintenance side. Then I moved out here at 27 with my band. We got a record deal that fell through. And then I got in the film business. And I thought that's who I was. And then the pandemic took that away. But in 2018, I found podcasting, which is my absolute true passion. I found it when I was in my wood shop making wood art.
On another life.
On my days off from the film business. Because I had to get out of the apartment because I lived with a lady I hated. And I needed a reason to leave the house. Because I only worked like 10 days a month. There was 20 days a month. I'm not going to sit around the fucking house with this bitch. I got to get out there in the wood shop. So as I'm sitting there, I'm putting noise canceling headphones on. I'm running table saws and I'm listening to podcasts. I'm like, well, what's a good podcast to listen to? And I heard Mark Maron was one of the biggest ones. So I started listening to him. And then, Joe Rogan was on the rise. So it's like, so I started with comedy podcasting. I was like, this is awesome. Plus I missed the touring of the band. Right? So I was like, how do I get back on the road and perform at night solo without dragging 3 other dudes who don't want to do it with me every single fucking night and splitting the money for me? And the reverse engineering came out to be comedy. And my mom, I think everybody says this, but my mom's always told me that I'm the funniest person she's ever met. Aww. The name, my mom's very religious. The name Isaac in the Bible, the definition of that name means gift of laughter. So it's always been in the back of my head that I wanted to do comedy.
That's lit.
But now I spent so many years like, I've been trying to find the cheat code. How do I skip to the top? How do I get to and everybody's been like, stage time. And I found a couple of shortcuts through camera work, meeting people, going on tour, doing things. But the regret of not doing the process from the start, because I started at 37. I was like, I don't have any fucking time. I gotta go. And I wasted so many years. Now I'm like, now I gotta start over again at 44 when if I had just started the right way the first time. I think I've learned a couple things along the way. But I'm kind of just like finding this world where like I don't know how to go after it again. I don't know if at this age, Like I want to have that same passion, be like, I am comedy, right? And then somebody kicks me in the chest, like I am Sparta, like I fall in the hole. But if someone took it away from me tomorrow, I'd be like, find something else to do.
Well, I mean, I'd like to just interject with this. Comedy, the reason why I love it more than track and field and basketball is because you can't age out of stand-up comedy as long as you allow yourself to keep an open mind. As long as you don't become that old man on the lawn being like, in my day it was. No. It's to embrace change and to allow yourself to grow mentally, to understand that there's no cap. It's not. You'll hear a lot of, sometimes you're the old comics where like, I'm done. I don't know nothing. I'm not. And it's like what you've done is you put a ceiling on your comedy. You cannot age out of comedy unless you refuse to continue to grow with it. Because every generation, every 10 years, it changes. That's why when people are like, oh, well, pulling up old clips of comedians from God knows when, it's like, that's a different time. It doesn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like that person wouldn't do that joke today the same way, you used to poop your pants as a baby and now you only do it on weekends. There's growth, you've got to change. And so if you don't do that, if you don't put that cap on yourself, if you don't say, I'm done, I'm an old man, then you can actually do comedy till the day you die.
Let me ask you this. This is just what popped into my head while you were saying those words. I've worked with a bunch of guys who have attained like astronomical success, stadiums, theaters, all that shit. And you're on that precipice of like, you've been working towards this goal, you're finding the success, getting the new fan base from the show, the Canadian. I always want to say America's Got Talent because I've said America's Got Talent so many fucking times. I'm like,
they're going to look up Preacher Lawson now.
I was never going to make that association. But you guys both have high energy.
He's a great guy.
You don't look anything alike, though.
No, he's got a body that won't quit.
Great ass.
It's insane. He's fantastic. Shout out Preacher Lawson. Yeah. God bless you and all your muscles.
Both of them. Do you? Okay, so what I've seen is, I'm not going to name who they are, but there's a famous comedy duo podcast, and their fans are accusing them of growing out of touch. Is this something that you actively think about as you like find all these new avenues of success?
Yes.
You like, so you're actively like surrounding yourself with people who are going to keep you grounded? Like what's the
more of actively understanding that it's like that saying, the person that thinks they know everything knows nothing. And so how I stay active is simply to ask questions. Just ask questions, because humanity always thinks they're right. And that's what I'm laughing at, how dumb we are from generation to generation to generation. I mean, realistically, if you just say back the things that most people believe in, you realize the joke's already there. But if you refuse to listen, well, then what you're talking about stops growing. So just listen, be open, understanding, be empathetic, understand where somebody comes from. And what happens is you are then able to age in body but be youthful in mind. And as long as you're able to walk up them steps and get on that stage, I mean, shoot, you don't even need to walk up the steps. Richard Pryor in his last days was doing it in a wheelchair. As long as you're willing and able, you will have the ability to connect. Because it doesn't matter. We've all met that dirty old lady who's hilarious. But why? It's because she refuses to allow her age to determine her mind. And if you allow your age to determine your style, well, you've capped yourself off and you are too old. But Bill Burr is 50-something years old, and 20-year-olds love him. Why? It's because he listens and he just tells you, this is what you guys are doing. And the jokes are hilarious. They're like, yeah, we are dumb. And there's nothing better than in your material being able to hold up a reflection of society and allow them to laugh at themselves. But you gotta listen. can't age out of comedy. It's impossible. You can age out. You can let your ego grow. You can find top tier big stars who are like, I'm done. I am funny. I figured it out. It's okay. So that you put your ego before the art. The art, without a doubt, no comedian will tell you that it doesn't constantly change and evolve with society. So if you refuse to grow and evolve with society, your ego is bigger than the art. And the minute that your ego is bigger than the art will get rid of you by itself.
Seems daunting for new comics to be able to try and like hit that moving target. You know, it's like, well, this is where it is when I started, and then it's going to be somewhere else when I get good.
I mean, I had to, when I started 16 years ago, they were like, just be funny and everything will work itself out. And then TikTok and Instagram happened. Yeah. And now I have zero like I have a very low following. Follow me on Instagram at Sterling's Jokes. I have a very horrible following. And it's because all I focused on was the art. And then, you know, you pull your head out your ass and all of a sudden you realize that you're sitting in a boardroom and they're like, and this has happened to me, how many Twitter followers do you have? How many Instagram followers do you have? And I'm like 3,000. And they're like, well, thanks for having you.
Yeah, but in 4 weeks from now?
Still to this day, you know, being on the patio right at the store or at the improv, people will be talking to me. And, you know, I'm silly and I'm fun to talk to. And then they'll look up my Instagram and they'll go, oh, you're not verified and you've only got 8,000 followers? Ugh. I'm done. They're done with me. Now, mind you, they're sitting there talking to me. They've met me. And it's like, wow. But they allow social media so much to dictate. They go, oh, I guess he's not funny. It's just how they are. And so I have to find a way. You know, I can't sit there and shake my fist on the lawn. I have to find my way.
Well, perfecting the craft is what got you on the show. And the show is what's going to give you that social media following.
Right. But I still, all through this show, I've had to repost. I have to post that I'm here. I have to, you know, I think I had to make 3 to 4 posts per day since I got the golden buzzer, right? And it's like the golden buzzer didn't mean you don't have to do social media. The golden buzzer meant now you have something to post on social media. And so if I'm to sit there and say, I'm done with social media, then I would be putting the cap on myself and saying, this is where you stop. And I want to see where my body and where it quits. Where does it end? Like, I'm going to give every single thing I have and then see where I end up. But I'm not going to use, oh, this changed, or oh, they held me back, or oh, they didn't give me this opportunity as an excuse to limit myself. Instead, I find excuses to keep going. Like, oh, I am still funny, or this material works, and this is a new topic, and what's going on in the world today, and what's happening. Keep asking questions. Keep listening. And so, yeah, that's what I do.
Man, I feel like I learned more in the last hour than I have being personally coached by some of the fucking biggest comedians in the world. At the end of the episode, I like to do a couple of icebreakers. Sometimes we do Would You Rathers, but I've got this new game called Let's Get Deep.
Ooh, that's what I call sex.
Yeah. So I don't know what these questions are. And I don't know what you're going to say, but this is how we clip the show. Speaking of social media, this is all the shit. Like that hour is just for the real ones that are really watching, listen to the show.
And God bless you guys.
This is for the hundreds of thousands of people that watch the TikTok show.
All right, here we go.
So, do you want to pick your own card? Do you want me to pick it?
I want to pick my own card.
Okay.
I decide my fate, and it's going to be this one.
I'm going to read it to you.
All right, there we go.
Nope. I'll read it. This is dumb. Show your friends the last selfie you took. We're on a podcast. Yeah, we're not doing that.
That doesn't work.
Some of them are bunk.
You see, that's how I knew I wasn't ready. There you go. There we go. That's the one. That's the one.
What was something you liked or did before it was mainstream?
Something that I liked or did before it was mainstream was watching Bob's Burgers.
Okay.
when they were in season 1, 2, and 3 is some of their finest work. And it's actually, it became popular like later for the hipsters and everything later on, but seasons 1, 2, and 3 are their best seasons, and it's actually because of the fact that they were so much dirtier, they were so raw, they were edgy. There's an episode where Bob does crack and hangs out with prostitutes who are men, and he literally comes home and he goes, I think I did crack. And I'm like, that back in those days. In fact, it's funny because when you look at episodes of Family Guy and The Simpsons, there's an episode where Bob's in the plane and he goes, yeah, you see this garbage I gotta keep pulling up with me? And then now in their future episodes, the most current ones, they're like, I don't know what happened. Like, when did this happen? When did they become better? So before Bob's Burgers was cool, I was already in love with that show. And so, yeah, that's something that I did that was cool.
Awesome. Let's do 2 more.
That's how I feel about these beers. Indie locale. Just so you know, these cans are empty. Anyways.
Well, they can just watch the podcast at like 10x speed and just watch you drink all 4 of them.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great clip. All right, here we go. I'm going to go from the end. There we go. Let's go from the end.
Do you prefer working on site or working remotely, and why? But your job is
stand-up comedy.
I'm going to pick one for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you believe in ghosts and or spirits?
I do. I was held down by a spirit. I was 12 years old, and I used to be a volunteer to go to the old age home. And I never forget, it was Sister Mary, Thomas, I believe. And so she died. She died on me, you know, and I'll never forget, I was a year later laying in my bed, and I opened my eyes and I could see the framing and outline, and it was standing there. And as my eyes adjust and I realized what it is, it rushed forward and my entire body locked. Now, this is a phenomenon known as sleep paralysis, but I saw what I saw, and it rushed forward and I locked in, like I couldn't move. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like what the, and now in the Caribbean, and you can Google this, it's what they believe. They believe that when that's happening, you're being held down by a spirit and being raped. And I'm like, you know, she had an eye for me. So so the way you break it is you're supposed to say the Our Father. So once you're locked, you can't, nothing can move. And so I'm like, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And when I got to hallowed be thy name, like, and I'm fighting, I'm like straining. And when I got to hallowed be thy name, I could move my arm again.
Wow.
And so that is my true to life, honest to God story. That's happened to me. And I'm like, we don't understand the world that we truly live in. And there's dimensions, there's animals that see in lights and spectrums that we don't. And so to say that we don't believe in something because we don't see it is to limit yourself.
Right.
And I got raped by a nun.
Yeah.
So
it's like all these idiots that believe the world is round, you know.
I mean, I feel like with ghosts, I understand why anybody would say you're wrong.
Yeah.
I do not question them. But to be in that situation, how do you, they'll be like, well, maybe this or maybe that or maybe the other. But it's like, but I saw the outline of like, she's wearing the habit, the robe, and it was sitting at the front of the bed. And when I had recognized what it was, and it didn't rush forward with love, like it's almost like I was like, what is that? Is that? And as I realized, it rushed, and then I immediately, so it was like I could move before. You know, I was able to move, but as I saw it, my entire body locked, and I'm like, I can't move. And I'm like, my mom is from Trinidad and Tobago, ridiculously superstitious. And she told us that that's what you're supposed to do, to pray. And then I go, well, how do you prevent it? And she said, and again, this is going to be great for anybody to Google it. If you walk into the house after midnight and you don't stop at the front of the door before you enter, turn around and walk in backwards, the spirits will follow you in. And I had come home late a few days prior, after midnight, and just stumbled and walked into the house. And she goes, that's why it happened. So the fact that that is well known as that's how you get it, and the fact that I was able to move and then can't move and saw, the lady, yes, there's probably ways to explain it away, but just as many to keep it there. And so that's why I believe in ghosts.
All right. Nice short 10-second clip there. It's going to go great on TikTok. All right, I'm gonna do one more.
I talk too much. I'm so sorry.
You watch. I'll cut that down to 30 seconds. I'm really good at it. All right, one more.
Yes, carry on.
What is your favorite thing about the city or town that you currently live in?
The favorite thing about the city or town that I currently live in is Edmonton, Alberta, where I currently live. And my favorite thing about it is the crowds there are always drunk. So they drink.
Yeah.
They drink. Love you, Alberta. So yeah,
Nice.
That's what I love about a good drunk crowd. Love them.
Yeah. I don't know how you're still able. If I had this much marijuana in my system right now, I would be calling an ambulance.
I told you I need 100.
Oh.
I'm at 40. So
Yeah.
40 is like what I would do for my regular day to day, because it prevents me from having road rage.
Yeah.
Again, I would love to take some of these home because it's a great body buzz, man. I can feel it in my calves. Yeah, man. That's great. No, it's fantastic. And it's like, if you don't mind, I would like to take these home.
Please, we'll set you up.
Thank you so much.
Sterling, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
This has been a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I think a lot of other people are going to learn a lot too.
I hope so, man. I hope they learn how much Canadians can drink.
I mean, if I wasn't driving and I had a 12-pack of beer, I'd go beer for beer with you right now.
I would love that.
Next time.
Yeah.
Please plug all your stuff, the podcast, the show, everything.
You can find me on @Sterling's Jokes on Instagram and X, and Sterling Scott on Facebook. And please go on to YouTube and check out the Comedy Guru podcast. If you're someone who's interested in comedy, give it a look. And if you're somebody who wants to just even run comedy shows, give it a look so that you understand how to not fuck up our job. So yeah.
Definitely check out everything that he just said. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen if I remember. I say that a lot and then I don't do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Sterling, thanks again.
Thank you so much.
This show's a piece of shit.